Hi everyone, welcome to the Creative Cove and thanks for joining me today. Today I wanted to play with some paints on some fabric. So I am working on some journals and ephemera and things like that, and I thought I have all this fabric and I've always wanted to do a fabric cover, but I'm not very good at sewing layers of fabrics together. I have a hard time kind of reading them. It's something I have to work on. But I wanted to do use up some of these scrap pieces of fabrics I had, and I thought, why not try painting on them? So I started painting this daffodil, and I thought, why not show you the process of how I do it? And maybe you'd like to give it a go yourself, just on scrap fabrics. And then, I mean, you can sew them and make little journal covers, whatever you want to do, or little tags or anything like that. So today I'm just going to show you that really quick. So it's not going to be a step-by-step so much because there is a lot involved, but I'll talk you kind of through the process that I use, and then the rest is really just blending and having fun with some paints. So here's my messy little palette here. I have some raw sienna. I have some, I think it's Mars Black, some titanium white. Hope I'm in frame here. Titanium white, some cadmium yellow, and what's the name of this green? It is called green gold. So it's a really beautiful green, actually. So you can see I did the one painting that I just showed you, so I've used these colors a little bit. I was kind of hoping I could fit the palette in somewhere, but I'll probably put my arm in it. So when I'm blending, I will try and show you what I'm doing. I'll try and remember to pull it over so you can see what I'm doing. So let's just start. I just used my mechanical pencil here, my 0.7 that I use in my quickie sketch videos, but you can use any pencil. And I'm just going to start with the daffodil. So I loaded a quickie sketch drawing on daffodils. So this is the next little installment, which is painting. So if you want to draw your own daffodil, you could also probably use a stamp, you know, if you have a stamp of a flower, and then you can paint it in. Maybe I'll do a video on that after. But let's for now just do the daffodil. So I'm going to do my center here, and I am just rough sketching because, again, a lot of this detail will get lost when I go to paint. So I think I'll do a nice big one on this paper, on this fabric, sorry. And I don't know what kind of fabric this is. It's just a cheapy, like, pretend linen. It doesn't feel like real linen. It must be some sort of cotton blend. But you can pretty much paint on anything as long as it's tightly knit, or tightly woven, I should say. And so that if the paint doesn't go through. The paints I'm using are pretty thick paints. Some of them are Golden Brand and Liquitex, but if you're using like a cheaper paint, like the dollar store paint, just don't use as much water in between, and that shouldn't do too much bleeding for you, because you just don't want it to bleed right through. If it does, just, you know, protect it. I put this spare piece down to protect my table. And my brushes, where are my brushes? These are just cheapy dollar store brushes. I don't take care of my brushes, so I don't spend a lot of money on brushes. So you can see that one's even falling apart, the glue. That's just how I roll. I just don't like spending money on brushes because I'm too lazy to take care of them. So I'm gonna just grab some pure white, and I added just a touch of water to my brush. And as you can see, my water's not very clean. But just because my paints are very thick paints. So the dollar store paints might be better for this project than a high quality paint. Good way to use up your cheapy paints. And this, you know, as if you are a journaler or an artist that likes to work with papers, this is a really fun way to introduce a new element into your journal. There's nothing more, in my opinion anyways, prettier than making your own little art pieces in your journal. And they're such a, you know, if you're going to give them away, they make such a lovely present because they're all hand made. Even if you use other people's papers or whatever, they're still you gotta add that kind of handmade element that is really a nice little detail. So as you can see, I'm just filling in my shapes like a coloring book. And I'm just trying to get as best as I can, not stressing. I'm kind of approaching this the same way I do with my quickie sketches, nice and loose. I'm not making a perfect rendition here. I'm making my artistic perspective on a daffodil. And that's really all I'm doing. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow now and some of that titanium white. And I'm going to add a tiny bit of the raw sienna and a tiny bit of the black. So I want to go with my darkest color in the center. And there, I don't really have a rhythm that I follow when it comes to painting. Like some artists will pre-mix all their colors and have everything. They have that kind of vision. They'll know what kind of colors they need. I'm not that person. I kind of just go back and forth and learn as I go and mix things as I go. I'm not organized in the sense that I will color blend everything ahead of time, especially the acrylics because they dry so quickly. So I'm just going to switch to my little small brush, and you can see I really don't take care of my brushes at all. I'm trying to bring this palette back in for you. And I'm going to add a little bit of the black to the whites to create a gray here. So you can see my gray, I hope. And I'm just gonna throw a little bit of it in at the base of these petals. I think I should come a little closer so you can see. Hopefully you can see okay. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more. I want it a little bit darker. So I'm starting with my darker shades here, because acrylic you can layer and you can add your highlights after. So that's why I love acrylic paint, because it's a very, very forgiving medium. You know, you make a mistake, you just let it dry and you go right over top of it again, which is how I like to paint, because I make a lot of mistakes. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush with my paper towel over here. Yeah, always have a paper towel of some kind when you paint. Helps control the amount on the brush. So now I'm just gonna grab this green, tiny bit of black, make this really nice dark green. I'm gonna throw a little bit under here. And I think while I'm at it, I'm just gonna add a leaf, sorry, since I have the green on my brush. I'm gonna throw that in. So very loose, very easy, very calm. Have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, glass of wine, and just enjoy the process. All right, so I'm just gonna clean my brush. So I think I'm gonna go back in here with a little bit more yellow and orange, just to really indicate, and maybe a little bit of the black, just to really indicate the center here. I feel it's a bit too washy. I want that center nice and dark. And I think I'm gonna pull that same color out into these leaves, petals. Geez, I get leaves and petals mixed up. Just again, just to offset the shading a little bit. And remember, this is, I don't like the shape of that petal. This is gonna look, when you paint, especially in acrylics anyways, you're gonna go through some very ugly phases if you're painting, where you think, oh my gosh, I've ruined it, but you haven't. It's just the process. So it's very easy to think, oh my gosh, what have I done? I shouldn't have put that color there. But it is a process, and it is about layering. So don't be too hard on yourself when you're playing with paints. All right, let's put some highlight while we're waiting for the center to dry a little bit. I'm gonna throw some highlights into my stems here. So I'm hoping my palette is, I'm gonna move my water. Hoping my palette is here so you can see. My camera is really low. It's like in front of my face, so I can't even see what's in frame. So I'm going to take some yellow and some white, and I'll take a dab of that green, maybe a little bit more. Makes this really kind of neon green. And then I'll give this a little bit of a highlight where you think light might catch it. And if you have a reference photo, even better. I'm just kind of painting this out of the top of my head, so bear with me. A little bit more green. You know, and some things I paint I'm really happy with, and other things I think, well, that's going in the recycle bin. And that's okay, because you learn something every time you pick up the brush. You learn something about the paint, you learn something about yourself. So it's, you know, even the masters, they're always learning something new. So I'm gonna go and hit this, daffodil with some serious yellow. So the daffodil I'm painting, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called, but it's got a yellow trumpet and white petals. So I'm really just dabbing this on now. And then I want to give it a little bit more of a highlight. So I'm going to add some white to that yellow. And if you are painting along with me, you can always pause my video and, you know, catch up if I'm going too fast, or just sit back and enjoy watching the process of it all. Just take my finger there and soften that a bit. So the danger of working while it's wet is it just simply gets muddy. You know, all your colors blend and you get mud. So if you find that happening, just give it a minute to dry and then play with it again. So now I'm going to take some pure white and some water. So my water's dirty, so it's probably going to go greeny. And I want to just really pop some highlights in here. Really pop the color of the white leaves. So again, just soften this up a little bit. It's a bit harsh. So I use my finger and really pop the edge of this guy, because he's got some really bright sunlight on him, in my head anyways. And you can see, just like as I show you in the drawing of how to draw a daffodil, I'm pulling the petals the same way they grow, and that's important. So I don't paint the petal across this way, I paint it in a contour. And let's go back to the yellow. So a lot of back and forth. You know, again, playing with the highlights. Really want to pop a highlight on this little tube here. And really show how this pretty little plant grows. So again, following the contour, I'm going to pull that in, and then I'm just going to soften it a little bit with my finger. And now we'll give it I feel like it needs just a little bit more contrast in there. So I'm going to pull out some dark color here. So just go back to my palette and grab a little bit of this messy blacky brown, green color. And again, I'm just going to pull the contrast of the center of that flower away. And maybe throw that color in other places. And maybe just darken up in here a little bit. So you can tell that's too much of a contrast for the look I'm going after, which is a very soft look, but I'm not stressing about it because I know that I can soften it with these acrylics. So I think I've put this petal in front of this one, but I think I'm going to change that and put this petal behind. So I'm going to put a shadow back here, which is going to be a little tricky to do because the paint is wet. Clean my brush. And then I'm going to take some stark white and I'm going to put the shadow, the highlight across the front. So now I've pushed this one to the back. And just by putting the shadow here and the highlight on the front. So cute little trick, especially if you're observing your own kind of reference, you'll see where the shadows and things lie. All right, and I think I'm gonna take some of this yellow and dirty it up. I feel like even though the petals are white, I still feel like they need just a touch of that color, a little bit of yellow, just to make the painting a little bit more cohesive. I mean, a reflection of that color maybe. And now I want some really bright yellow, really pop in here. Really grab that sunlight. And again, you can pull it in. Nice and relaxed. And let's give it its little steam in here by giving it another bright yellow. And I think we'll do it right here. It's popping out. And go back to the brow. So you can see it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of, even though he's tucked in there, he's still being a little bit of shadow. A lot of back and forth with the color, but lots of fun. And like I said, so I put in some of that dark, and I'm not gonna panic because I know I just let it dry and I correct it. And that again is the beauty of acrylic paint. Very, very forgiving. Okay, so I think we'll do one more smooth out with some clear white, just to pop any real highlights here. And as you apply the paint, because it's wet underneath, it will blend, so you need to reload to make your paintbrush clean again, or wash your brush, because we're painting wet on wet. Whoops. Let's clean that line up. And there, I think that will do it. Maybe a touch more yellow. I need some yellow this time of year. It's just so white out there right now. Okay, throw a little bit more back in. Blend it out with my finger a bit. Put a little bit of yellow maybe in the stems. And I really love this burnt sienna color. I find it is, I need to add it. I don't know why, but it just warms everything up. I added in the stems as well. See how warm it is? It just changes. I guess it's part of that vintage vibe thing that I'm into, but I do love that. I'll even rub a little bit in the petals. I think we'll make this guy really bright here. Add a little bit of that creamy color. There. So that's that one. I think what I would like to do is just widen this a little bit. This green, kind of pull that stem from back here back. And then maybe add one more, kind of like the look of the first one that I did with the one that's kind of half open. So maybe we'll add one of those over here. So I'm just going to throw my stem in. And then you can draw it, of course. You can draw it out with a pencil, but I'm just going to go straight for it. Again, I'm not worried if it doesn't work out. It's considered more of a practice run than anything else. I don't want to. The minute I put pressure on myself to do something perfect or, you know, really, really well, is I'm kind of setting up myself for failure there. And when I do things for clients, I find I take 3 times as long because I'm worried. You know, I'm overthinking it, and I really don't need to. I just have some confidence in myself and just have fun painting. And you kind of tend to forget that when you're faced with painting something, you're thinking, oh gosh, this has to be perfect, and it doesn't. It just has, you just have to enjoy it. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to give this guy a little bit of a shade now. Just he's kind of flat, so we'll give him a little bit of definition with that gray. So he's kind of got all these little, he's tightly folded up still. He hasn't opened up. So I'm just going to grab that dirty gray green color. And then he'd have some ruffles here. So all these petals are jammed into this tiny little end. So we'll put a little shading on there, and we'll add a little bit of yellow to it. Okay. And normally I'd probably let that dry, but I don't want the video to be 5 hours long. So I'm just going to hit it with a bit of a highlight now. Just dab that white back on there. Go back to this pretty green. With the white still on my brush. And there we have it. Just some fun. And I mean, you can draw this out with marker after too and highlight it even more with black outline. Whatever works for you, you know, whatever look you're after. But it's a great way to use up some spare fabric. It's a great way to experiment with a new medium in your journals. And maybe the next video, I'll show how you can use a stamp. So if you're a little bit intimidated to draw it, you can use one of your stamps, and then I can show you how to paint the stamp in and give the flat stamp more definition by using some shading. So I hope you liked that today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more. And we'll see you again soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye.